everybody. We are here at the Nurburgring. This is our seasonal night race, racing in the middle of the night. The Nurburgring, turns out, is a pretty good track for a night race. There's a lot of lights around this track. The last 2 seasons we've raced in the dark. We've been at some pretty dark tracks, so this one gives you a little more of a mixture of lit up areas and darker areas. Should make for some really good scenery and hopefully a really good broadcast of this race. So what we've got right now is we've got Jon Snow in first, Charlie Beach in second, Andre Marcheshin in third, Mike Doherty in fourth, DeCourcy Beach in fifth, Alex Mota in sixth, David Macedo in seventh, Kyle Macedo in eighth, Pedro Perez in ninth, Ken North in 10th, Eric Alvarez in 11th, Cole Bennett in 12th, Jamie Morrison in 13th, Nick Driveman in 14th, Scott Taylor in 15th, Maxwell Cerna in 16th, Johnson Liu in 17th, David Blythe in 18th, and Eric Gottsacker in 19th. So we got a couple of new guys with us tonight that we haven't seen before, so we want to welcome those guys and look forward to seeing what they can do on the track. You see everybody's getting their cars fired up and ready to go. Everybody's lights are coming on. At this point, they've got their pit strategy set up, their tires set up, any last minute tuning changes they want to make are all done now. So it should be a lot of fun tonight. We're going to spend the majority of the race will take place from the onboard cameras. Even though Nurburgring is more lit up and you can see a little better, these night races are just better from on board. You can tell who you're looking at and what you're looking at a little bit better. But we'll do what we have to do to get a good presentation around this track. You see John leading everybody around here. Let's take a look back through the field. We got Andre starting in third. Old reliable Mr. Doherty, he's in fourth. Always up in the top, always up in the front is Mike Doherty. DeCourcy Beach in fifth. We saw DeCourcy win the other day, and we'll see what he can do here tonight, showing some good speed around the Nurburgring. Mota's been up in the top 3 pretty much every race this season, so we'll see what he can do. David Macedo. Looks like David's got some damage on that car. I'm being told that he had an incident during the warm-up lap, so he's already got damage on his BMW. Made contact with the wall. That is unfortunate. That's not how you want to start your race. David won last week. And in the absence of Jon Snow, he was able to take the lead in the championship. He is currently leading by 1 point over Jon Snow and is in first place for the championship. So rough start so far for him here on the warm-up lap, damaging his car. Behind him is his brother Kyle Macedo. Right behind Kyle is Pedro. And then Ken North, who's been really having a great set of races recently. He's starting in 10th, so that just shows how fast the top 10 really is, that Ken is all the way back in 10th. He's shown a lot of speed in that Lambo recently. Same thing with Eric Alvarez. Eric really, really fast. You see Eric's got a new paint job this week that he's showing off, so that's good to see. Looks good. So, you see the different lights the guys have set up. These night races are really fun. The different colored lights that are on the cars and everything make for a lot of fun. We see, I think it's Nick Driveman. Yeah, he's got the blue Looking pretty good there. But anyway, let's get back to the front as everybody's getting formed up. We're getting ready for the start of this thing. About to hit the front stretch here. We'll be starting this race pretty soon. Not sure which camera we should try. Maybe this one. Just waiting for the green flag. And there it is. There's the green flag. Oh, horrible start by Charlie Beach. He gets a slow start. Marchician gets a really fast start. He's all over Jon Snow. Looking towards the inside, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. And Marchician just overshoots turn 1. Lucky nobody got in the way there. Meanwhile, you see DeCourcy Beach on the outside of Marchician right there. DeCourcy from 5th all the way up into, looks like 3rd place. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong beach. There we go. All the way up into 3rd place. Charlie Beach right behind him. David Macedo right behind him. So Macedo, despite the damage on the car, looking pretty fast early. Mike Doherty right behind David. And Pedro has moved up in front of a few people. He is right behind Mike Doherty. The running order on the scoreboard is a little off right now, but it'll adjust here in a second. You see Moto behind that. You see two guys side by side that look like Eric Alvarez. It is Alvarez and Cole Bennett, I believe, side by side right there. Alvarez is going to get the better of that exchange. Alright, so we're going to take a look. Let's jump on board with Mr. Doherty here, just to give you an idea of what these guys are looking at. So that's John way up ahead up there, then Marchician, then DeCourcy Beach, then Charlie Beach, then David Macedo right in front here. So this is the view from 6th place. Coming around the final turn into the front stretch. See DeCourcy pull off there. Not sure what happened to him. See Mike nice and smooth through turn 1 there. Mike now up into 5th place. Gets right up on David Macedo. David a little bit slow through there maybe. Take a look at some of these other guys. Andre, this is the view from 2nd. That's Jon Snow out front. It's a tall task to catch Jon Snow. You see John make a little bit of a mistake mid-corner right there. Andre able to reel him in a little bit. Trying to stick with him coming up the hill here. You have to capitalize on those mistakes. John doesn't make very many of them at all. So when he does, you have to capitalize. See how quick he is through that section right there. Able to pull away from Marchician. Meanwhile, Marchician has Charlie Beach behind him. About 1.3 seconds behind him. Something happened to Mike Doherty. Let's take a look back to see what happened here. Mike is all over David, currently riding in 5th place. Whoa, takes a look to the inside. Probably not a good idea right there. That's going to slow him down a little bit, and that's going to allow Pedro to slip past. See Pedro up into the 5th spot. Pedro's shown a lot of speed here at Nurburgring. Take a look back through the field here. We've got Cole Bennett still trying to keep pace with Eric Alvarez here. He is about a second off of Alvarez. See Alvarez run a little wide there, but able to manage to get back on the track. Johnson Liu is side by side with Driveman. Whoa, really close there. These guys are in a drag race down to the next turn. Looks like Johnson has the advantage, but he's going to be on the outside going into the next turn, but it doesn't matter. He's going to get the advantage. You see behind him, that is Maxwell Cerna in the Porsche. He gets past Driveman also. So those guys both get past Nick. Scott Taylor and Ken North both looking to do the same. Driveman maybe just a little bit off the pace right now. Struggling just a little bit. He's got Scott Taylor all over him. Some really close racing. Look at the splits back here in the back of the pack. Kyle Macedo's 0.3. David Blythe is 0.6. Ken North 0.3. Scott Taylor 0.3. Nick Driveman 0.2. Cerna 0.9. And then it gaps out from there, but you see how close the racing is, even back here in the mid to back part of the pack. See Scott Taylor make the move to the inside. It's a drag race. That is going to put Scott on the outside for the next turn, though, and that's going to, Driveman's going to hold on to the position. So Ken, not sure what happened to Ken North, but he's fallen all the way back to 13th. He started in 10th. Kyle Macedo, he started in 8th, I believe, 8th or 9th, and he's back to 13th. So not sure what happened to these guys, but they took a step back. We got some work to do now. Let's get back up to the front. So we got Charlie Beach. He's still behind John Snow. Not too close there. This is Pedro Perez, who's behind David Macedo. Losing ground to David a little bit. Meanwhile, Mike Doherty is still right behind Pedro. Just made that little bit of a mistake earlier, and Pedro took advantage of it. Oh, and now Marchician is behind these guys. Not sure what happened to Andre. I don't think we can go back and look, but he was up in second or third, and now he's back to sixth. So something happened to put him back. I'm trying to keep pace with these guys. We know Andre's got the pace to be up in the front. We know that, so let's see what he can do. He's got some clean track in front of him for a little bit here, so he can put down some fast laps. So Ken North is being shown behind Nick Driveman, but he is in front of Driveman and Kyle Macedo. So Ken has moved up to 10th place. You see Macedo and Nick Driveman and those guys back there behind him. So Ken back up to 10th place, making his way through the field. He's got Johnson Liu, Cole Bennett, and Eric Alvarez up in front of him there. Take a look back on board with Doherty. Doherty's all over Pedro. So John Snow's got the gap to Charlie Beach up to 2.3 seconds. Charlie Beach is 3.1 seconds ahead of David Macedo. You can see Charlie up ahead, way up there. That's Charlie Beach up there. And then you got David Macedo, Pedro Perez, and we're on board with Mike Doherty. So 3rd through 5th right here, all in a bunch. And don't forget about Andre. Andre is just behind these guys. He's about 1.5 seconds behind these guys, trying to catch back up. Doherty loses a little bit of ground to Pedro. Pedro is making up ground on David Macedo. He's catching him slowly. Let's take a look on board with Pedro. Pretty close to David here. See how technical some of these tighter areas of the track are, all the way down into first gear. Throttle timing and car placement is so important in those tight corners like that. If you get on the throttle too soon, it pushes you right off the track. If you get on it too late, the guy behind you blows right past. These guys no doubt practiced a lot this week to get all those timings down so that they can stay consistent and stay fast. So you see that Mike Doherty is still trying to catch back up to Perez. Meanwhile, Marcheshin has caught Doherty. So Marcheshin has made up the ground that he lost, whatever happened to him that set him back behind these guys. He still has that great pace that he had in qualifying. He was able to catch this group of cars. Let's see what he can do with them now that he's caught them. Let's take a look back. We got Scott Taylor close on David Blight. Love the crackle of the Ferrari when you downshift from this thing. It has that snap, crackle, and pop the engine makes as it goes down through the gears. Just an awesome sound. The sounds in general in ACC are top notch. They're absolutely amazing. And the visuals at night, the dust when a guy puts his tire off in the sand for a second that comes up, the sparks that come up when the cars bottom out, the different lighting and light sources that you see. Scott Taylor taking the inside here down the front stretch against Blight. It's a drag race, but Taylor has the advantage. He's going to, whoa, he almost gets into David right there. David is going to take the position back. Very close to an accident right there coming into turn one. These two guys almost came together. And then right behind this is we've got Eric Alvarez. Eric looking to the inside. Oh, he's going to get a piece of Scott Taylor. Oh, that's unfortunate. Taylor trying to get turned around. Alvarez waited for him to get back going so that he didn't take the position from him, but that's unfortunate for those guys. All right, let's get back up here to the front. We got Marcheshin still right on Mike Doherty. You see this bunch of cars is tightening up. Pedro, wait a minute. Was Pedro ahead of David before? I don't think he was. Pedro is now up into third place, ahead of David Macedo, then Mike Doherty, and then Andre Marcheshin. So I'm not sure when it happened, but Pedro made the pass to take third place. Now he's got three really fast drivers right behind him. You know, Pedro, I think this is going to be the last time that we talk about Pedro as little brother Pedro. Ever since Pedro's been here, he's been talked about like, oh, look how good Pedro's doing. Look at little brother, he's doing so good. He's getting to be such a great driver. And you know, I've talked about him that way because when he first joined us, he had not sim raced hardly at all when he first got here and had a ton to learn. And you know, he could barely keep the car on the track, which is how we all are when we first start sim racing. But it's been 3 seasons almost now, and we've continued to talk about Pedro like, oh, look at how good he's doing. I think it's time we quit talking about him that way, because here is Pedro pulling away from 3 of the fastest drivers we have. David Macedo is always in the championship hunt, so is Mike Doherty, and so is Andre Marcheshin. And these guys are 3 of the very fastest drivers we've ever had in this league. So, and they've been here since the beginning. So the fact that Pedro is beating these guys at night in a complicated track just shows he's no longer the new guy. He has established himself as one of the guys who is a threat every race. So Pedro, congratulations. I will try to refrain from calling you little brother by talking about you like, oh, look at Pedro. And I'm just going to start talking about you the same way I talk about everybody else. Now that also means when you make a mistake, I'm going to point it out just as much as I do for everybody else. So get ready for that. But great racing by these guys. Marcheshin, you see him, he catches Doherty every so often, but then he falls back a little bit. Doherty, I don't know if Doherty's having a better lap and Marcheshin is falling back, or if Marcheshin's having a worse lap. It's kind of hard to tell at this point. David, having no issue with the damage on that BMW, is able to keep pace with these guys no problem. You see how tight these guys are keeping it through that long braking zone into turn 1. It takes a lot of car control to stay off of the guy in front of you that well, but at the same time stay close to him. If you haven't raced, if you're not a sim racer and you've never done it, I just want to point out that is an extremely difficult thing to do, to stay right on the guy in front of you while not hitting him. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of skill. These guys are all very skilled drivers. I don't think we give them enough credit for how good they really are on a race-to-race basis. Because we always point out, oh, there's an incident. Oh, this guy hit that guy. But these guys are really, really good. We're going to jump on board with Doherty because he's really close to Macedo now. Trying to see if he can get around David. Marcheshin has fallen back just a little bit behind Doherty. These guys both seem to be... Whoa, Doherty has a loose rear end right there. Almost loses the car. That's going to cost him the position to Marcheshin. Good save by Mike just to keep the thing out of the wall. We've seen other people hit the wall right in that same spot in that exact same way. So good save by Doherty. That's going to put us back on board with Marcheshin because Doherty's fallen back quite a bit. Marcheshin now has some room. Doherty not in front of him to try to catch up to Macedo. The question is, can he catch him? David's been really, really fast, and he's trying to keep up with Pedro. Pedro trying to gap these guys. He's pulled away a decent bit. Take a look on board with David. That's the gap to Pedro. Pedro showing some really good speed here. More importantly for Pedro is the consistency. Pedro was trained by none other than Jon Snow, who is our resident alien driver. And John's speed is not only flat out speed, but it's a relentless consistency. That's what makes John so hard to beat, is he just lap after lap after lap is smooth. The repetitious driving style that he has, if you put him on a track where he gets into rhythm, he's almost unbeatable. So we'll take a look on board with John. There's nothing to see here because he's all by himself, but here we are with Mr. Snow. See him coming up the hill here nice and smooth. I love riding with John because when you ride on board with John, everything is just so calculated and so smooth. Like, it's the kind of driver that I want to be, you know, the kind of driver that I wish I was. He's just, I don't want to be the fastest guy, but I want to be this smooth. I want to be this good at repeating lap after lap after lap. I mean, really awesome to watch. You know, what we haven't done is we haven't taken an onboard lap. Let's take an onboard lap. Let's ride with Mr. Doherty. So here he comes around the final turn, coming onto the front stretch. We're going to do one whole lap around the Nurburgring. We're going to ride with Mike Doherty. Front stretch, long front stretch, comes into a little bit of a dogleg right, and then hard on the brakes all the way down to turn 1, which is a really hard turn. A lot of people get that one wrong. Then you come up a small hill, slow speed, sweeping turn to the left. Another hard left-hand turn followed by a hard right-hand turn. And then it's a high-speed area, so you got to get right back on the throttle. Coming through this high-speed area, this is going to be down in the third gear for this turn here. A little bit of gas, then back on the brakes down into second. You see Doherty nice and smooth through there. Knows exactly where he can push the car to, how much gas to give it, to keep it right where he wants it on the track. Another hard right-hander. For as fast of a track as the Nurburgring is, there is a lot of slow speed turns and hard braking zones. And to take advantage of those high speed areas, you have to be consistent on the slow speed stuff. You got to get out of those turns as quick as possible so that you can gain that speed on the long straights. This turn right here, I've always loved this section of the track. You come around this turn, you're coming downhill, you gain a ton of speed. You're going to take this right-hander flat out, right through here, all the way to the left, then back to the right. You're coming into a hard S turn right here, down into third gear, left and then right. You got to make sure you don't clip that little bumper on the inside right there, and then you're coming into the final turn and back onto the front stretch. So that is one full lap around the Nurburgring. Compliments of Mr. Mike Doherty, and he has his hands full trying to catch back up to Marchician and company. He is currently 3.1 seconds behind Marchician. Meanwhile, Marchician has fallen back. Wait a minute. We lost someone. Where is he? He is in the pits. Oh my gosh. David Macedo, for the first time ever in our league's history, pitted early. He's in the pits while everybody else is still out on the track, which is something we just don't see. Usually David is the last guy to pit. So that's going to shake things up. David, we'll see if he repairs the damage that he had on the BMW, if that takes extra time or not. So now the question is, when are the other leaders going to pit? You see John. You see that's the gap to Charlie Beats. It's about 4.2 seconds. Then from Charlie back to Pedro, here's Charlie in the BMW. And from Charlie back to Pedro is 8.2 seconds. So Charlie comfortable in second place right now. You see the glowing exhaust and the glowing brake calibers, or brake rotors and everything. Just the amount of visual feedback, even in a night race, that you get with ACC is really incredible. You see Marchician is catching up to Pedro. Take a look on board with Marchician. There goes Pedro into the pit, so Marchician's going to take the spot. That's going to put Andre up into third. Neither of the guys in front of him pitted, so Marchician up into third. Pedro's in the pits. Mike Doherty just passed him in the pits. That's going to put Mike up to 4th. Kyle Macedo has moved his way up through the field. He is up to 6th place. And right behind him is Ken North. So these guys were both back in the teens and have now made their way up into the top 10. Now granted, a couple guys have pitted, so that's going to affect placement. But they're making progress through the field. See Ken nice and smooth, trying to get back in reach of Kyle Macedo here. Now we know Kyle can be really, really fast, and he usually is really fast. I shouldn't say can be, he usually is really, really fast. But we also know that Kyle kind of drives like his hair's on fire. He's always on the edge of what his car is capable of doing. Just pushes it right to the limit. You mix in his extreme driving style with the loud sound of the McLaren, and it sounds like you're in a fighter jet. Like every time I jump on board with Kyle, I feel like he's going to crash any second, but he's always just turning laps, just flying around the track. See him all the way down into 2nd through those turns right there. Coming around the final turn. So we'll keep an eye on this battle here between him and Ken North. Not a lot of close position battles going on in the back of the pack right now. We've got some guys spread out because of pit strategy. Alright, let's jump back to the front. So we'll see when John decides to pit here. So John trying to keep an eye here on when these guys are going to pit, but nobody's pitting yet, so you see the glowing exhaust on all these cars from the heat of the engine. It's pretty incredible looking how detailed it is. The Porsche, you see the Porsche there, the whole exhaust across the back of the car is glowing in the dark. It's pretty incredible looking. Speaking of the Porsche, Alex Mota is currently in 14th place. Was told that he had an incident early in the race. We didn't catch it live. We know he started in 6th place, so we'll see where he finishes at, but he had a pretty horrible incident which gave him a lot of damage he had to repair. We'll see where he's able to finish. Meanwhile, still waiting to see when our leaders might pit here. There's John. He's not going to pit once again, so that's one more lap that John will not be. Here goes Charlie Beach, so he is going to pit. He's coming in right now. So is Marchician. So second and third both into the pits now. Mike Doherty is not going to pit. So that's going to move Mike up into second. See Ken North, he's all the way up into 5th place now. And Johnson Liu, I believe Johnson started in, I can't remember for 100% certainty, but I want to say Johnson started in about 14th place, 13th place, something like that. He's currently being shown all the way up in 6th. Now, granted, he might lose a couple positions when he pits, but we're going to keep an eye on him and see where... We know Johnson typically passes a lot of people through the course of the race. So we'll see where he finishes at. Back on board with John Snow. Waiting to see when he's going to pit. Here he goes. So the leader's coming in. So John coming into the pit here. So that's going to give Mike Doherty the opportunity to take the lead, but will Mike pit also? Let's see. Coming through the final S's here, he is not going to pit, so he is going to take the lead of the race. Mr. Doherty. He's going to be one of our late pit guys this week. So we don't have David to rely on to be late this week. So it looks like Mike is going to be that guy. Meanwhile, Ken North does not pit also. John is still in the pit, so that's going to move Ken up into 2nd place for the time being. So now it's just a matter of these last couple guys pitting here. It's going to make the difference. See Doherty. Mike is coming into pit, so that's going to be Mike coming in. Let's see what Ken does this lap. if you remember, Ken was in close competition with Kyle Macedo. Something happened to Kyle. We missed it. But Kyle is back being shown in 10th place right now. So not sure what happened to him, but Ken has moved way up in the field. We'll see where he's at once everything shakes out with the pit stops and everything. So our leader will soon be Jon Snow once again, now that these guys are in the pits. See the blue flame shooting out of the exhaust on John's car there as he's shifting. Pretty amazing amount of detail put into this simulator. These guys did a great job. Every little thing you could think of, and a lot of things that you might not would normally think of, has been recreated to the best of their ability. So right now it's showing Johnson Liu in second place, but we know Johnson hasn't pitted yet. So once he pits, that's going to put Charlie Beach back up into second. You see Charlie is right now 7.4 seconds behind Jon Snow. Well, they did show Johnson split, so there it is. So about 7.6 seconds behind Jon Snow. Add those two splits together. So Charlie's not too close to Mr. Snow as far as being able to put a challenge on him. But behind that we've got Pedro Perez, who's still dealing with Andre Marcheshin. Jump on board with Marcheshin here. That's Pedro just up ahead. .2 seconds behind this, we have Mike Doherty, and now we're on board with David Macedo, who's behind Mike Doherty. See if Doherty has anything for the guy. Whoa, you see David run a little wide there. You don't want to get into that loose stuff. That's how you lose control of the car right there. But David, if he can keep pace with Mike might very well lead him up to Marcheshin and Perez, who are up ahead. Pedro's still holding strong onto that position in front of these guys, despite being under attack for most of this race. It's been a long battle, but he's still holding on. Marcheshin, we know, is one of the fastest guys on the track. But can he get around Pedro? Just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, back in the middle part of the pack, we've got Jamie Morrison right behind Nick Driveman. Driveman runs a little wide there. That's going to give Morrison the window he needed. He's going to take the position. It's going to put Jamie up into 11th. guys are both a little ways behind Eric Alvarez. Eric's kind of all by himself right now. Not sure how far behind Kyle Macedo he is. Here's Kyle. Kyle is 11 seconds behind Ken North. Ken North is 23 seconds behind David Macedo, so there's a pretty big gap between those guys. So Ken's kind of in no man's land out here. Meanwhile, we got Doherty. Oh, we missed something. Let's go back. Marchishin somehow got around Pedro. Let's take a look. Alright, so here's Marchishin. Looking for third place. It's still showing Johnson Liu in third place, but Johnson still has to pit, so that's why. Marchishin kind of looking on the outside, maybe trying for an undercut, but Pedro keeps it tight. No room for an undercut there. Marchishin using every bit of the track that he can. Tries to get alongside Pedro, but that's going to put him on the outside on the next turn. Kind of a risky move there. Oh, Pedro runs wide. The strategy pays off. Marchishin able to get Pedro a little bit off of his racing line and able to take advantage. So that's going to put Marchishin up into third. And now Pedro's got the task of trying to keep pace with him. Meanwhile, he's got Mike Doherty all over him. So if you're in a position like that where Pedro is at right now, you've been moved off your line, the guy got the position from you. There's nothing wrong with your race. He's been running a great race, so you can't panic. You just have to get back to what you've been doing all race long and hope that the guy in front of you makes a mistake. Keep the pressure on him. So here's Doherty. We got David Macedo, who's 1.2 seconds behind us right now. We're riding with Mike Doherty. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Macedo just a little bit back. Not quite in the picture with these guys yet. See all these guys nice and tight through the final turn there. See Marchishin playing the slipstream game a little bit, weaving back and forth. Pedro kind of didn't go for it, just keeping his line. So Doherty's looking pretty racy here in the second half of the race. Pedro doesn't quite seem to have the pace now that he had in the first half of the race. Either that or these other guys have gotten faster. Not sure which one is the case. Looking back through the field, kind of want to keep an eye on this battle, but looking back through the field, we see Eric Alvarez is now behind Jamie Morrison. Alvarez was in 10th place. Not sure if Jamie took the position or if Eric gave it up. But now Jamie's got to deal with Eric. Eric's all over him right now. This is the only close battle in the back part of the group. We You know, Eric has shown some incredible speed the last few weeks, at times being the fastest guy on the track. Just from talking to him a little bit, it sounds like his biggest concern right now is just working on his consistency. With the speed that he has in this Honda, if he can get the consistency down, he's going to be really competitive, because he's got a lot of speed, especially at a couple of tracks we've raced. He's shown a ton of speed, so we're interested to see what happens with him as he gets more track time with these guys and gets a little, you know, it takes a while when you first join us. Eric's new. When you first join us, you get, you know, to race a bunch of tracks that maybe you've never raced before or have very little experience at. We kind of run a pretty wide variety of tracks. And then also you have to get used to the weekly routine of practice races, and then race. You know, it's something that you eventually get into a groove where it's more comfortable. So some of these guys we got a lot of new people this season, so a lot of guys are getting used to that routine. Meanwhile, up here in the front, David Macedo is now within a second of Mike Doherty. Let's get this right. Marchishin. Something happened to Marchishin. He's got quite a bit of damage on his car. Not sure what happened. Let's take a look on board. Coming through this final S-curve here. And just loses the rear end of the car and into the wall. Didn't look like much of an impact, but apparently did quite a bit of damage. That's going to let these guys all get past him here. It's going to put Marchishin back into 6th place, I believe. Yeah, 6th place, with quite a bit of damage on the car. Didn't look like much of an impact, but it was a head-on impact, so unfortunate turn of events for Andre there. So right now we're on board with David Macedo, who's caught up to these guys. Falling back a little bit, so we'll take a look on board with Doherty, who's right on Pedro. There's a lot of time for things to still happen. We are running, let me double check, I think it's, 31 laps tonight. So 31 laps, we have completed 22. So 22 laps in the books. There's Jon Snow. 23 laps now. So John has completed 23 laps, and you see some of the other guys crossing the line. There's Charlie Beach. He's all by himself up here in 2nd place. Maybe some lap traffic, but that's about the only company he's going to have for a while. Then we've got Pedro, who's followed closely by Doherty. Doherty followed closely by David Macedo, but not that close. David about 1.5 seconds back of those guys, just trying to catch back up to him. Meanwhile, you see how close Doherty is to Pedro. We're going to stay right here for a minute. Waiting for Pedro to make a mistake, you might be waiting for a while. He doesn't make many. Every now and then he'll run a little bit wide, and leave the door open for a second. If you're right there, you can take advantage. But that's about it. He doesn't make many mistakes. His pace is very consistent throughout the race. I mean, he wouldn't be in third place right now if he wasn't consistent. So, you see Doherty late on the brakes there, allows him to catch back up to Pedro. He's been able to do that a few times where he gets into the braking zone nice and late, catches right back up to him. But then when he gets to him, there's not much he can do with him. Meanwhile, Macedo has closed the gap down to Doherty. See Mike get a little bit loose coming through there. We've seen these S-curves like this one right here claim a couple of drivers' races. So you got to be careful coming through here. Whoa, David a little late on the brakes there. Got really close to Doherty. Doherty looking around the outside, but there's not much he's going to be able to do out there. He actually loses quite a bit of ground to Pedro with that move. And then immediately makes that ground back up. So Doherty just trying some different things. So it's kind of what Marcheshin did to find his, when you have a guy in front of you like Pedro who doesn't ever come off the racing line. He's very, very much in the spot you want to be in. Sometimes the only way around him is to kind of make him go too wide in places where he doesn't want to be too wide, or force him off his line by getting that inside leverage coming into a corner. And a lot of times inside leverage is set up by the turn or two before that turn. So you got to get on the outside and pressure from the outside so that you'll be on the inside in the next turn or two. So we saw Marcheshin do it to Pedro, and it worked. So we'll see if Doherty does the same thing here. See, Mike is all over Pedro. Getting a really close look at that Bentley. Here David let off the gas early into the brakes there, just not sure quite where these guys were going to brake. Through there, Pedro made up some ground on Doherty. That separated these guys a little bit. Doherty run a little wide. David trying to get alongside, but he would have been way out on the outside, so he dives back in behind him. Doherty on the outside again. A little bit loose between those two turns there, and a little slow through that one, so David keeping the pressure on him. Way up ahead. Every now and then you can see Charlie Beach up ahead of Pedro here. At least I think that's Charlie. Maybe not. Charlie's 17 seconds ahead. Not sure if he would be visible. Might be lap traffic in between these guys here. See David keeping it really close. We're going to take a look back. This is Eric Alvarez once again all over Jamie Morrison. These guys have been battling for a while. Behind this, we've got Marcheshin side by side with David Blythe. he is going to take the position coming down the front stretch there. So we know Marchician has great pace, but he had that incident earlier. He got the damage fixed, and now he's back out on the track, making a hell of a lot of progress on some of these guys. He's got about 24 seconds to catch Alvarez, who's in front of him, who is all over Jamie Morrison right now. So Alvarez is being held up by Morrison, but that's a pretty large gap back to Marchician, about 25 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that. We've got about 5 laps to go, so I doubt anything is going to come of that. Keep an eye on this position battle right here. So David Macedo, we're on board with David, still right behind Doherty, who is all over Pedro. I see a couple of cars way up ahead there. Not sure who that is. Quite a ways ahead of these guys. Up in front of these guys, there is a couple of cars that looks like possibly Nick Driveman there. Let's take a look on board with Pedro. Yeah, that looks like Nick Driveman in the Honda up ahead of Pedro here. So a little bit of lap traffic these guys are dealing with. See how that affects this trio of cars. Oh, while we were doing that, Macedo got past Mike Doherty. We missed something. So David's been behind Mike for quite a while. See Doherty all over Pedro. Macedo gets a really good run coming up the hill here. He is going to go to the inside of Doherty, manages to hold it tight to the inside and make the pass there. Good pass by Macedo. So now we're going to get on board with Doherty because he is the guy behind. See Nick letting Pedro go by, letting David Macedo go by. He's going to let Doherty go by as well. Oh, and Macedo gets into the back of Pedro. Oh, and then Mike gets turned around, makes contact with these guys. Let's take a look at all that again. Take a look on board with Macedo here. Just barely touches Pedro, just enough to turn him around. Then Doherty gets into it. Not sure who hit Mike from behind. There's Pedro. Mike is behind him, or behind David. Somebody hit Mike in the back, but I'm not sure who that was. Nonetheless, they're back in the positions that they were in because David waited for Pedro to get back and Mike waited for all those guys to get back. So that's what we like to see. We don't want to see people gaining positions because of contact or because of an incident. So we like to see that good, respectful driving between the guys. Hopefully it doesn't end the fun racing that we've been watching, but we're almost to the end of the race now, so that might be it. That might be all the battles we're going to see between these three guys. If so, it's been a lot of fun to watch. Let's take a look back through the field here. Actually, let's start at the front. Start at the front. There's Mr. Snow. He is 12.8 seconds ahead of Charlie Beach, so he's comfortably in the lead. Seems like we say that about him almost every week, being comfortably in the lead. So John putting on another dominant performance. Charlie Beach, who's new, he's only been with us for 2 or 3 races now. He's shown a lot of speed since he's been here. He's very strongly in second place right now, shown a really good amount of speed. You see, that's Marchician right behind him, but that is not for position. Marchician is currently in 11th place, so that's just coincidental. Then we've got Pedro Perez running in 3rd. Pedro has never podiumed in an official race. He's had some really good finishes. I think his best finish, I could be wrong about this, but I thought his best finish in a points race was 5th. I think that's the best he's ever done. It might have been 4th. I can't remember if his best finish was 4th or 5th, but I don't think Pedro has ever podiumed in a points race yet. Then behind him is David Macedo. Then Mike Doherty. We've been following these guys all night, so we kind of know where they are. Then we've got Ken North, who has moved his way all the way up to 6th place. Ken's quietly had a really good race. Maybe that's my fault. I haven't shown him quite enough. But he started in 10th and is all the way up in 6th now, so he's having a great night. Ken representing the Lamborghini seems to get a little bit stronger every week, so great job by him. Kyle Macedo, despite some earlier issues, is all the way up to 7th, so he's having a really good race, and we know he's having fun because Kyle drives like there's no tomorrow. So that's 7th place is Kyle Macedo. 8th place is Johnson Liu. Johnson is kind of all by himself right now out on the track, but he started in, it was either 14th or 15th, so he's gained about 6 positions, so he's had a really good race also. Jamie Morrison up in the top 10. He's running in 9th right now. He's doing a really good job. We know Jamie, I think right off the start of this race, Jamie had a drive-through penalty. I think he jumped the start or was out of position at the start of the race. He got a drive-through penalty before lap 1 was even a quarter of the way over. So the fact that he's still running top 10 shows he's had a really nice night. Behind him is Eric Alvarez. Eric has been battling with Morrison for a large portion of this race. He's about 1.8 seconds behind him right now. Then after that is Andre Marchician. Andre's had a very up and down race. He's shown a lot of speed at times, been up in the front at times, but he had a couple mistakes that put him back. But, that's part of racing. David Blythe is in 12th. He is leading, but not by much. He's about 1.2 seconds ahead of Cole Bennett. Cole Bennett has been competitive throughout the race. We haven't probably shown him as much as we should have, but he's been competitive. He's still battling right down to the end. Speaking of the end, we're coming to the end of this race, so we're going to wrap it up here in a second. Nick Driveman, 14th. Scott Taylor, 15th. Maxwell Cerna, 16th. And Alex Moda is currently in 17th, and you see him. Actually, I think he just finished the race. And, yeah, the race has finished. So, we are going to go back, spending time going through the running order and missing the finish of the race. So, here's Mr. Snow on his last lap. John dealing with some lap traffic that's close to him. Coming around the final turn here. We're going to take a look at the checkered flag as John crosses the line. That's going to be the win for John right there. Here's Charlie Beach coming around the final turn. That's Alex Moda in front of him, but that's not for position. That's going to be second place for Charlie. He crosses the line. Pedro. Now, we still have position battles going on, but they're a little spread out now. This is Mike Doherty in 5th. David Macedo almost within reach of Pedro. We're going to watch both of these guys together. Coming around the final turn, Pedro is going to hold on and get 3rd. David is going to hold on to 4th, which, considering he crashed in the warm-up lap, 4th place finish for David Macedo is pretty damn impressive. Mike Doherty's going to get 5th. Ken North, he's going to come around and get 6th. See the lights flashing there. Kyle Macedo, he's going to finish in 7th. Good finish by Kyle. Johnson Liu is going to get 8th place. Behind him, Jamie Morrison is going to hold on. As long as he can make these last couple corners, he's going to hold on to 9th place and beat out Eric Alvarez. And those guys battled for a long time. In the end, there's the checkered flag for Morrison. In the end, Alvarez just not able to make the move. And that's the end of it. So here we go. We are at the end of the race, so what we're going to do is what we always do. We're going to go back to the beginning, and we are going to ride on board with somebody. Who are we going to ride with? We want to be on board with somebody who saw some good action early in the race. I am thinking we're going to ride on board with David Macedo, because David started back in 7th place. Now he finished in 4th. So David had a pretty action-packed race. Let's take a look at what the start of this race looked like from his point of view. You see, that's the Corsi Beach right in front of David there, and Alex Moda. So we're in 7th place. We're coming around to get the green flag. think I say it every week, but you can't have a good race without a good start. And these guys have mastered the art of the good start. You see the brakes there by Doherty as Charlie Beach got a horrible start off the line. Falls back a couple of positions, trying to regain. You see Marchician overshoot turn 1 there. That's going to give Snow a nice clean path through there. You see DeCourcy Beach side by side with Marchician, but Marchician's going to have the advantage on the inside. You see David here getting stuck on the outside of Charlie Beach, then reverts back to the inside. Not quite alongside though, so he's going to fall in behind Charlie Beach. So Charlie actually had a pretty bad start to the race. The fact that he finished so strongly in second just shows how good the rest of his race really was. And from here, David manages to have a really good race. Finishes up in 4th at the end. Did a lot of battling with Marchician, Perez, Doherty throughout the course of the race, and was able to beat most of those guys out except Pedro. He wasn't able to get Pedro in the end. So Pedro with a top 3 finish, his first podium in an official race. So that's pretty much it, guys. That is the race for this week. We are going to have, after this ends here, we're going to have the current point standings going into race number 7. This is race number 6 tonight. So going into race number 7, we'll look at the standings. Then next week, we will look at the standings as we go into our final race. So coming down to the end here, we got a lot of great position battles going on between everybody. So we want to keep track of those so we can see who finishes where and how it all goes from here. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in just a minute where we go over our current standings. See you next week. Alright guys, so here we are after the night race at Nurburgring. We are currently looking at our standings for the season, where we sit right now with 2 races to go. Our next 2 races are Kailami, and then Brands Hatch is our final race. So currently, we know going into the race, David Macedo was 1 point ahead of John Snow, but David finished in 4th and John finished in 1st. So John has leapt over him back into 1st place in the championship. He's got 140 points. David close behind with 131. Coming in 3rd place. 3rd place is a tie between Ken North and Mike Doherty. These guys are both having a great season. Ken has kind of gotten faster and faster every week in that Lambo. And we've seen the same thing from Mike Doherty in the Audi. So 2 guys who have improved throughout the season are tied for 3rd place in our championship right now. Really fun to see that. After that, in 5th place is Andre Marchician with 83 points. Right behind him is Pedro Perez with 81 points. 1 point behind him is Alex Moda with 80 points. So really close point spreads between these guys here. Then we drop down a little bit into the 60s. We've got Kyle Macedo in 8th place with 62 points. Johnson Liu in 9th place with 61, so really close there. Right behind that is Stefan Buckley. We know Stefan wasn't with us at the Nurburgring, but he's currently sitting at 59 points. Then we've got DeCourcy Beach with 52. Eric Alvarez with 48, tied with Andrew Cooper with 48. And then we drop down into the 30s. We've got Charlie Beach with 36, Nick Driveman with 35, Scott Taylor with 34, Evan Miller with 32, Eve Barrios with 29, Cole Bennett with 20, Jack Woods with 16 points, Peaks, which we haven't seen Peaks in a few weeks. Not sure if he's still with us, but he's holding in 21st place, tied with Gabriel Macedo at 15 points. But we haven't seen either of those drivers in recent weeks, so not sure if we will see those guys again or not. James Parks is in 23rd, tied with Jamie Morrison. Both of them have 12 points. David Blythe in 25th with 11 points. Eric Tong in 26th with 9 points. Samuel Rock tied with him in 26th with 9 points. Casey Bennett in 28th with 8 points. Laurel Waddle in 29th with 7 points. Cavilla, which I don't know if Cavilla is still with us, he's got 6 points. 31st is Maxwell Cerna with 5 points. Louis Benora has got 2 points. He's tied in 32nd with Lauren Silverman. And then last but not least, Lorenzo Liu has scored 1 point. He hasn't been with us in a few weeks, so that is our standings for right now. That's where we sit going into the last 2 races of the season. We'll try to make a recording before the race next week so that we can just kind of refresh on these standings, and then we'll go from there to the race, and then we'll go to the post-race where the points stand currently. So a couple more weeks to get everybody sorted out. A lot of great position battles going on the scoreboard, just like there is on the track. So great competitive season we've had so far here. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next week at Kailami. All right, thanks a lot.